All right. So I know that I've been kind of all over the place in this vlog thing so far, and really, I guess that's the way I wanted it to be. I don't want this to be a scripted kind of thing. I want us to deal with more teachable moments as things arise, and we have an opportunity to talk to them about how this whole thing about navigating crisis times like this by faith. Um, and what we're starting to see now in Arizona, and it's happened across the country ahead of us. We're a little bit behind everybody else, I think. Is the proliferation of this virus and stuff. And now what's happening is um, lots of us are being impacted in a personal way by this. Friends, family, either the immediate health concerns that go along with COVID-19, or the impact of jobs and housing and everything that goes, the whole economic impact that goes along with this too. So, but we're hearing more and more stories from our people I work with at GCE and GCU about family and themselves who have are being tested or have contracted the coronavirus. Um, and going along with that, we're hearing more and more of people that we know who are passing away as a result of it. Uh, just this past week, a friend of mine from college, a good friend, guy that I loved back in the day in college. He was we were in theater together. He was Watson, my Sherlock Holmes back in the day. Tim Russell passed away as a result of this, and that brings it home, right? Uh, that brings it to a place where it's like, okay, how do we talk about this then? And I started to think about, what are the fears that are uh, associated with this? What is it that causes uh, this huge amount of anxiety and fear that kind of permeates the society that surrounds us because of this? And understandably, this is an enormous thing. Something that in my lifetime, I don't know that we've lived through something like this, and that's been a long time. So I uh, I I think that that's part of it. That this is such a big thing that's going on that we're dealing with. But it seems to me that most of the fear comes from either an economic kind of concern about you know the, the jobs and that are being lost at this point, lack of income, the retirement accounts that are being devastated because of all of this, and just the whole economic impact, I think, causes us a lot of concern. And then on the health side of it, I think the fear centers around the idea of death and dying, um, and I think both of those are kind of tied up together in this whole question of what it looks like to trust God in the midst of this. If because it seems to me when we talk about death, and we talk about the potential loss of life, uh, that 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 this is a crucial element in our understanding as followers of Jesus, and how we respond uh, to these kinds of situations in the world. That if we are going to be different anywhere, I mean, if we are going to have a different attitude about this, about any of this that's going on in the world, shouldn't the first place that is be uh, in uh, in our response to the possibility of death and dying? uh, I had a chance to be with both my parents when they passed away. I know it sounds odd to say. I really consider it a privilege. I was with my mom. This has been 6 or 7 years ago now. When middle of the night, she stepped into eternity. My mom and dad both loved Jesus. Were uh, examples of faith to me, and really laid a foundation in my life for following Christ. And my dad, a year and a half later, made his change of venue, change of address from here to the next world. And I really considered that to be, like I said, a privilege to be there, because in some ways I felt like nobody should have to enter eternity kind of by themselves on this side, just to be there to usher them in. But what it did was it got me thinking a lot about faith in the midst of that. That it seemed to me that, thinking about my mom and dad, that here they were followers of Jesus for most of their lives. They were committed to Christ, and much like I am. I don't know what it has. I don't know what it's like not to follow Jesus. And if we get if we're not, if we don't lose our lives somewhere along the way in this, we get to a point where that we we are beginning to face on a daily basis the possibility uh, of our passing away, of our going home to be with Jesus. Um, and what I've thought since then, as I've considered this, is it feels to me like that is the last big statement of faith, right? Here I've laid my, I planted my flag, my faith flag, in the truth, what I believe to be the truth of Jesus, uh, and and faith, and we know what faith in Him looks like, and who God is, and the way that He deals with us. I planted my flag in that all my life, and now I come to the end, and there's this one last big step of faith, to believe that when I close my eyes for the last time, that is not, the end of my existence. That all this is a change of reality for me, from this physical reality, stepping into a spiritual reality for a while, that will one day be the new heaven and the new earth. And that's what I live for. It's what I long for in many ways. Is that it's what's promised me. It's where my hope lies. Uh, is in that, and I want to do that well. I don't want to get to the end and then all of a sudden, come to the point where I'm like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm fearful, and I don't want this, and I want to be prepared for that. I want to have the kind of faith that says that this, the old song, it always comes to mind when I think about this. We used to sing it at camp when I was a kid. This world is not my home. I'm just a passing through. My treasures are laid up somewhere beyond the blue. The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Used to be, we sang a lot of songs about that, about our destiny, about where we really, where our the reality of who we really were was going to be there, that this was just a temporary place. And it feels like a lot of the fear and anxiety that we have about things like this going on are because we want to hold on to this place, that the things of this place are more important than where our destiny in God is really, where we are really headed in that. This is this this is the truth of our faith in Christ, that death is not all there is. It's just a doorway. It's just a an entrance into what we were really made to be, and what the place that we are really intended for. Paul says in Philippians 1, he said, for me to live is Christ and to die is gain. For, my Geneva family back in Pennsylvania, when we were in school, Phil Roll passed away, and that was the headline on the college newspaper at the time. For me to live is Christ and to die is gain. And I believe that. I believe that death is not the worst thing that is ever going to happen to me. It is really the thing that ushers me into the best thing that is ever going to happen to me. Paul in 1 Corinthians 15, he says, he lays out the whole thing about the resurrection, and that this is not what, that this place here is not what, this is just the temporary thing, and that we are made for more, and that death no longer has its power over me. There is no sting left in death, and there is no power left in death. That praise be to God, He's given us the victory in Christ Jesus. And I need to believe that what I believe, we've said this before, that do I really believe that what I believe is really real? I want to put my flag in the truth of that death is not all there is. Now, we have death on a huge scale in this kind of thing, right? It's the magnitude is tremendous, but that's a lot of that is because technology makes it so we know about all the deaths around the world. We're keeping track of all those things, and that causes fear in us. But man, it is not like God is out of control of this. It is not like God has, lost track of the number of days that we have to live, and that He is still the one who has that in His hands. And this is on a scale that kind of overwhelms us a little bit, but it shouldn't be something that shakes our faith in that we are just pilgrims here. We are temporary here. Hebrews 11 looks at all that those people considered that this was not their home, that their citizenship was elsewhere, and that's what they looked forward to, and that's what they were living for, was that. There was a pastor who several years ago, my head exploded, is the way we put it. I had a subarachnoid hemorrhage, crazy thing, brain bleed kind of thing. And sitting I tried to drive home from school, and I was sitting in the parking lot at the cell phone lot at the airport. My head I thought I was having an aneurysm, and I just prayed. I said, God, I know that aneurysms kill people. If this is the way you're taking me home, then that's fine. I'm not ready to die yet. I would prefer to see my grandkids grow up and all of that. Absolutely, I would like. But if this is how you're calling me home, then I'm good with that. And I know you'll take care of Ann. I know you'll take care of the kids. And man, I just felt like this peace that came over me in that time. I was thinking of this pastor several years ago. I read he came down with stage 4 cancer of some kind. And what he said was, he said, so this is how you're going to call me home, Jesus. This is how you're going to, this is the way you have ordained for me to actually come home is through this. And man, I would love to have that kind of attitude through a time like this. I shouldn't be afraid of death. I shouldn't be afraid of what's going to happen to me if I die. No, certainly I don't. My preference, like I say, is to see my grandkids grow up and all of that. I would prefer that. I prefer to spend some more time with my wife. I prefer to, and really, death is harder for the people that are left behind. I'm going to miss Tim, although Tim and I didn't see each other very much anymore. But so it's going to be like I am just seeing him again. I'm going to see him at some point down the line here again. It's not like we are separated in any way. So I need to have that attitude that where yeah, it is overwhelming, it's extensive, but I can't be afraid of this. I have to face this in a way that plants my faith in the trust in God. The same is true of the economics. That whole fear of the stuff of this world and losing the stuff of this world is that ties in with this whole thing. But um, shouldn't we be different here? Doesn't the resurrection of Jesus, I mean, we're looking at Easter, we're looking at an Easter that is going to be different than any Easter maybe that we have celebrated in our lifetime, right? Maybe this is the year that we begin to understand Easter as more than just a blowout worship service or a family time, and we begin to catch the significance of the resurrection of Jesus in our lives. That it's because of his resurrection that we too can share in new life. It's because of his resurrection that death no longer has any fear for me. I don't have to be afraid of death because death is not the final say. It is not the thing that dictates the way that I understand my existence anymore. That the resurrection of Jesus is the thing that allows me to say, like Paul, for me to live as Christ and to die is gain. That's better by far. And I need to believe that. I need to get a hold of that. We need to be different here. This is the place where, of all places, of everything that we do in life, this is the place that we as followers of Jesus must be different, is in our attitude about death. So let's deal with this differently. Let's figure out the way to put aside our fears and don't allow the enemy to just push us into the form of the culture. Let's find the way to celebrate the fact that God is in this. He is in control of this, that he is trustworthy in this, and that if it's time for me to go home, then let's celebrate that. Let's rejoice in that. Because we know that at some point we're to be together again anyway. All right. I know this is kind of all over the place, and this is what processing means for me, I guess, is to just talk this out with you, so I hope it's not too kind of crazy. And the crazy thing is, looking at myself, it looks like I'm missing this middle tooth right here. It's very weird. I guess it's the shadow of the thing. Or just your Kentucky guy here. Oh, sorry. Those of you from Kentucky, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so until next time, we'll keep processing together. Okay, thanks.